Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Heather Spanowski, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the head of school of this amazing institution. And we are gathered here today to celebrate the hard work that our 8th grade students have done over the last year in planning and implementing their individual capstone projects. We will have half of our groups present today and half of our groups present tomorrow. Before we start, I would like to recognize and thank two very special guests for attending today. We have State Representative Roy attending today, and we have Dr. Kevin O'Malley attending today. So thank you guys very much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules for joining us today. Before we get started, I just want to give you a heads up on what you are going to see today. And I would like you to prepare for the following things. Prepare to be amazed by the hard work and dedication of these young men and women who sit before you today and present the very hard work they have done over the past year. Prepare to be touched by their generosity and commitment to make a difference in something that is very important to them. And be prepared to be inspired as you think about your future capstone projects or how you can follow the lead of these students and work with your family to include community service and to do projects that mean something to you as well. Thank you all very much for all of the hard work you have done. Take a deep breath. You will do an amazing job presenting, and we are very excited to hear about all that you have done this year. The first group to present today is Mrs. Lariviere. This is her second time going through the capstone process with our students. She has been an amazing, amazing advisor to these students and has helped them through this last year of their project. So Mrs. Lariviere, if you can come on up.
Good morning to you all. Yes, I'm Susan Lariviere, but I'm also known as Mrs. L. I have had the pleasure of being this outstanding group's advisor since September. I was not part of the advising group when they started their capstone journey. A special thank you goes to Marjorie Ward for starting them off on the right foot and preparing them so well as they planned and then chose their final projects. I only worked with what Mrs. Ward had started. And I would also like to mention the other Mrs. L, Lisa Lockhart. Her support of the students has been very much appreciated. Thank you again, Mrs. Ward and Mrs. Lockhart, for your hard work. I have the pleasure of introducing to you today 8 hard-working students. And to start this process, I would like to first introduce Daniel Engelmeyer.
Hello, students, parents, and faculty. My name is Danny Engelmeyer, and for my first capstone project, I chose to work with sleep apnea at the Milford Hospital. Before the summer, I had 3 goals. My first goal was to raise $300 for research on sleep apnea. I thought that once I had completed this goal, I'd be one step closer to a cure. My second goal was to raise awareness for sleep apnea, and my third goal was to volunteer at the Milford Hospital. The first obstacle I faced was that the Milford Hospital did not allow any volunteers. I was going to choose to participate in a sleep apnea class in which I could use to educate my friends and my family members. But I realized that I had a second problem. My second obstacle was that I did not feel connected enough to sleep apnea. So at the end of the summer, I changed my capstone project from sleep apnea to running a chess club and raising money and awareness for the Living Memorial Chess Foundation. I overcame my obstacle of restarting my capstone by going to Mr. Perna when school started and asking how I'd be able to send out my flyer on the pink sheet. Then, right after I got my step 4 approved by Mr. Perna, I submitted my flyer. Another way I raised awareness was by speaking at lunch to the 7th and 8th graders because I knew that many people from those grades would come if they just knew about it. There are many reasons that I chose to change my capstone project. The first reason was that I felt much more connected to chess. I've been playing for as long as I can remember and was at the school's first chess club. I have been consistently playing, and by doing so, got pretty good and connected to the game. I recently figured out that when the chess club began, we received free chess sets from LMCF. So I decided to spread awareness and donating money that I raised to LMCF. My goals for my new capstone project are fairly similar to my original goals. My new goals are to raise $350 for the Living Memorial Chess Foundation, to raise awareness for LMCF, and to run the school's chess club. I also had a problem for my new project, though. The week before chess club was starting, I only had 9 people signed up, which was about half of my goal. I was worried that this was going to end up a disaster. So I asked my friends, and my mom talked to some other moms, and in that week we were able to get 19 people and 1 other person who joined after the first couple of sessions. I believe that the Living Memorial Chess Foundation is a great cause. It was established in 2004 and has given out over 1,000 chess sets. The charter school received their chess sets in 2007. Any school or library in the state that wants chess sets can get them for free from LMCF. LMCF is also a nonprofit organization, which makes their mission even more amazing. They give free chess sets to cancer clubs just because chess means something to them and they want to pass it on. This has been my mission for my capstone project because I felt inspired from what LMCF has done for me and for many others. At the end of my capstone project, I was able to raise $400 from the 20 kids that joined my chess club. I was also able to raise awareness by speaking at lunch to the 7th and 8th graders and by speaking at my own chess club. For my final goal, I ran chess club on Fridays for 6 weeks. I was able to organize chess club, give a few lessons, and work with the kids on chess puzzles. I really enjoyed this capstone project. I would like to thank many people for the success of my capstone project. I would first like to thank my mom and my dad for helping me through the entire capstone process. I would like to thank Mr. Perna for giving me many great ideas that made my capstone project the best it could be. Mrs. Fallon for putting my flyers on the pink sheet. Mrs. Wolf for letting us use the art room for chess club. Everyone who participated in chess club were fantastic through all 6 sessions. Steve Breimer for helping me send money to LMCF. And of course, my advisors, Mrs. Ward and Mrs. Lariviere, and my advising group, who were supporting me and keeping me on track through the entire capstone project. I could not have done it without your help and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny, that was great. Next up, we have Rosa DiMartinez.
Hello, students, parents, and faculty. My name is Rosa DiMartinez. For my capstone, I raised awareness about ovarian and breast cancer. I decided to work with a nonprofit organization called FORCE. FORCE stands for Facing a Risk of Cancer Empowered. I decided to work with FORCE because my mom is a part of their community. FORCE has helped my mom and has helped many other men and women. When my mom found out she had both genes, she searched for people who understood how to prevent the cancers. FORCE's website said that they would have a conference in Florida that was going to discuss both the ovarian and breast cancer genes. When my mother came back from the conference, she had learned so much. I wanted to thank them, but I did not know how. Finally, I thought for my capstone that I would help FORCE. My mother and I emailed FORCE many times and came to find out that they would be grateful for my time and dedication. They thought it would be a great idea if a person from Massachusetts gave out information about them, and because since their main location is in Florida. A few weeks after my mom and I contacted FORCE, they sent pamphlets and bracelets that they give out themselves when they have their own conferences. The pamphlets talked about why it is important to be educated about ovarian and breast cancer. Also, the pamphlets talked about how you can find out if you or a loved one has the gene. I decided that I wanted to do 3 mini projects in order to complete my capstone. Well, I originally wanted to do 2 mini projects, but mothers these days. On May 18th, I held a booth at my town's 300th Pride Day. Pride Day is where people promote business, have fun activities, and a lot of organizations go there to raise awareness. That day, I had the help of Brianna Gatto, Lauren Lockhart, and my family for setting up and talking to people. I had 2 trifold boards that explain who FORCE is and what they do. I had at least over 100 bracelets and many pamphlets. I sold the bracelets, soaps, and ponchos. The ponchos represented the colors of the ovarian gene, which is blue and pink. Every time a person would go by the booth, Lauren or I would tell them about force and why I was there that day. That day, I made at least over $200. Mr. Perna, Mr. Duke both suggested that it would be a good idea to fundraise at school too. I did, and I was lucky enough to have the help of Cloudy Mocha and Marley Patterson. At school, I only sold bracelets. I told everyone about force and how buying a bracelet can help somebody's life. For my third mini project, I work with a local ice cream shop called TC Scoops. The owner of the ice cream shop, Tina, is always willing to help kids with their projects. She told me that I could work behind the counter with her, serve ice cream, and talk to people about force. So, on October 27th, I worked with Tina for 3 hours. And the deal was that I would get 15% of the sales within the 3 hours. Tina was so kind that she even made a homemade quilt that had the ovarian cancer colors. She told me I could set up a table about what ovarian cancer is and how force is still helping people. The blanket was raffled that day, and we made over $100. I look back at all the hard work that I had done with the help of many wonderful people. I felt like I became a better person because I was not focusing on how it can just help me. In the process of doing my capstone, I did face a challenge. As the old saying goes, don't rain on my parade, I was begging, don't rain on my project. The weather was a big challenge, and if it did rain, I would have to go back to the start of thinking of how to raise awareness. I think the best part of my capstone is knowing that Force is grateful for my time. A month or two ago, my mother went to another conference, and she told Force community that I was done with my project, and they all gave me a round of applause, even though I was not there. I felt extremely happy knowing that I helped an organization that is truly amazing. There are some people that I want to thank for making my capstone a remembering capstone. I would like to thank my advising group. You guys are so amazing and were so supportive during the capstone process. Also, I want to thank Mrs. Ward and Mrs. L for being the best advisors a person can ask for. Mrs. Arnott, Mrs. North, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Perna, Mr. Duke. You all are wonderful teachers and made this process easier. Now I want to thank my friends Brianna Gatto, Lauren Lockhart, Cloudy Mocha, and Marley Patterson. Without you guys, my capstone would probably be a mess. Last but not least, I want to thank my parents and grandparents. You all taught me something during this amazing experience. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Rosa, for your enthusiasm. And next up, we have Michael Jumas.
Hello students, parents, and faculty of BFCCPS. My name is Michael Jumas, and for my capstone project, I chose to focus on multiple sclerosis, or more commonly known as MS. MS is referred to as a progressive neurological disease, which involves an immune system attack on the central nervous system that worsens over time. There is no cure for MS. However, researchers have already developed many medications that help to delay the effects of MS. People with MS suffer from a wide range of symptoms, from mild numbness in some parts of the body to the inability to walk. Some other symptoms can be loss of vision, as well as slurred speech or restricted motion in one side of the body. I really wanted to do something to work with this horrible disease because of the fact that my grandmother has been living with MS for over 20 years and was diagnosed at the young age of 28. I chose to assist two different organizations that work with MS, the National MS Society and the Boston Home. The National MS Society is a nationwide project that is centered around finding a cure for MS. I decided to walk in the annual MS Walk, which is an event where walkers must obtain sponsors in order to raise money for the MS Society. With my mom's permission, I used her email to send out many emails asking family, friends, and classmates for donations to help sponsor me in the walk. I was both blown away and delighted when these emails brought in a total of over $800 in donations, which I then presented to the MS Society at the walk. The Boston Home, the second organization I chose to work with, is a home for adults with progressive neurological diseases such as MS. My grandmother has been living at the Boston Home for 10 years now, and the staff and residents there are all amazing people. I chose to go in for a series of weeks for 2 hours at a time and offer my services in the computer lab there because of the fact that I'm very tech savvy. In total, I volunteered 16 hours of my time to the Boston Home. The main way that I educated others about my capstone project was through the emails that I sent out asking for donations for the MS Walk. In these emails, I wrote a brief summary about what I was doing for my capstone and why I chose to work with the organizations that I did. This summary included information about what I was doing at the Boston Home and also the reasons that I was focusing on MS for my capstone. I educated the community at the Boston Home about my capstone by placing flyers throughout the Boston Home, telling people about the help I would be offering in the computer lab there. These flyers contain information such as when I was to be volunteering and what my capstone project was all about. With the help of the volunteer coordinator, Sally Gorman, I was able to post the flyers all over the Boston Home. Throughout my project, I faced a couple of obstacles. The main obstacle that I faced was to figure out a good time to come in and volunteer at the Boston Home. The Boston Home always had many different events occurring, and the residents were always busy doing one thing or another. This made it difficult for me to coordinate specific dates and times to come in to volunteer. I had to overcome this obstacle by setting dates and times with disregard to the fact that there may have been other events going on at the Boston Home. This was not the only obstacle I faced throughout my capstone process. The other main obstacle I faced was one of the days I was scheduled to come in to volunteer, I could not make it due to personal issues. However, I was easily able to overcome this obstacle by coordinating a new date with the head of volunteer work at the Boston Home. I felt that my project had a very strong positive impact on both myself and the community that I worked for. It made me feel amazing to help those around me who were in need of assistance. It was great to be able to utilize my talent with computers to help those who are less fortunate than I to succeed. The Boston Home really did benefit from my help, and the residents were requesting for me to come in more often to help them out with even more computer issues. I made many friendships with residents at the Boston Home, and I loved helping all the residents with all their difficulties. As always, there are many people who were crucial to the success of my capstone project. One of these people was my mom. She allowed me to send out an email using her email account in order to ask for sponsors for the MS Walk. She also drove me to and from the Boston Home every Wednesday afternoon over the summer. Another person who I would like to thank is Sally Gorman, the volunteer coordinator at the Boston Home. She was very helpful in setting up dates and times when I would be able to come in and volunteer, and without her, I would never have been able to volunteer at the Boston Home. I would also like to thank the two advisors I have had throughout the capstone process, Mrs. Ward and Mrs. L., for guiding me every step of the way throughout my capstone project. In addition, I would like to thank school administrators, Mrs. Olnowski and Mr. Perna, who helped me in the early stages of my capstone project. Without these people, my capstone could never have been such a great success. Also, I would like to extend my thanks to those people who contributed to enable me to walk in the MS Walk. Your generosity did not go unnoticed, and if I could, I would thank every single person who contributed. I am very proud of my capstone project and the impact that it had on many people. I am also extremely proud to be able to say that I and all the people who contributed to my capstone have helped along the road to finding a cure for MS. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Michael. That was great. Next up is Lauren Lockhart.
Hello students, faculty, and parents. My name is Lauren Lockhart. My capstone project entailed supporting local programs which focused on children with special needs. Specifically, I worked with the Hockomock Area YMCA's Integration Program and the Special Olympics. The Integration Program is a division of the YMCA and that hosts activities such as swimming and other sports and arts and crafts as well, all of which are targeted towards kids with special needs. The second organization I worked with was Special Olympics. Most of you are probably familiar with Special Olympics, but just in case, the following is from their website. Special Olympics Massachusetts provides a year-round sports training, athletic competition, and other health-related programming for athletes with intellectual disabilities throughout the state. They believe that through the power of sports, people with intellectual disabilities can discover new strengths and abilities, skills, and success. Special Olympics offers opportunities to compete to those who are often denied them. I have always loved sports, and I liked the idea of helping organizations which encourage kids with special needs to participate in athletic events. In the 6th grade, I participated in the 7th annual Run for Bob in Franklin with 2 of my friends. It is a 5K run, walk, or jog that raises money for the YMCA's integration program. I later found out that the race was in honor of Bob Biagatti. He was my neighbor's brother who had passed away 9 years ago from a heart attack. Bob's daughter Kayla has mitochondrial disease and participates in the programs available through the Y. I thought that the Run for Bob was a great cause and I wanted to help. The second portion of my capstone was a 5K race in December. The race is called the Jolly Jaunt. The Jolly Jaunt is, well, exactly that. Running in a race in December outside doesn't seem like a very fun thing to do, but when you see a Santa and an elf jog by you, it definitely raises your spirits. For the jaunt, people would dress up in red and green gear, ugly Christmas sweaters, Santa and elf costumes, all accessorized with tutus and jingle bells. Running alongside the ocean and cottages in Hyannis, Cape Cod was beautiful as well. My dad ran with me, and he enjoyed it just as much as I did. Special Olympics wasn't the only one who benefited from my dad and I running, though. After sending out a follow-up email with pictures from the race, my aunt commented, "I never thought I'd see my brother in a Santa hat, let alone get a picture. Thanks for that." To inform and educate my community about my capstone, I sent out an email last spring discussing the cause and encouraging my friends to join the Run for Bob. More recently, when I was training for the Jolly Jaunt for Special Olympics, I sent out another email, this time to family. In the email, I talked about a Special Olympics school to help disabled children, information about the Jolly Jaunt, and asked for donations and sponsors as well. Some obstacles I overcame was that after Run for Bob, I had a soccer game. Not wanting to be exhausted from my game, I chose to help with setup. I helped with setting up the food stand, the water stations throughout the route, and I also helped with marking the distance checkpoints. Last year, at the very beginning of the Capstone experience, I signed up for the Winter Games, but then I got the flu. I did not think this was much of a problem at the time, because I assumed there would be a Spring Games, the Summer Games, and the Fall Games, but there wasn't. Due to the time of Capstone's completion, I couldn't wait until next year's Winter Games, so I had to choose something else to do with Special Olympics. Another obstacle of Special Olympics was that to sign up for an event, you had to sign up a certain amount of time before it. And I did not realize this, and often when I tried to volunteer on the website, the option is no longer available. Despite obstacles and roadblocks, I feel my capstone had a very positive effect on my local and regional community. I helped the YMCA's integration program by volunteering my time towards their event. I also believe that I helped Special Olympics the most. I ran in the Jolly Jaunt, presented by the New Balance Foundation, in Hyannis with my dad. With the email that I spoke of earlier, that was sent out to my family, I raised over $250, which all went to Special Olympics Athletic Funding Program, as did all the other proceeds of the event. Throughout the capstone procedure, I have learned many things. For one, do not idle when your participation in a volunteering event is on the line. Another is to make capstone a priority. I've learned the hard way that if capstone is not your priority when the time comes, it certainly will not aid in your completion of the project. I would like to thank a few people before I finish this speech. I would like to thank my two advisors, Mrs. Ward and Mrs. L., for helping and guiding me through this crazy thing that we call capstone. My mom for transportation to anywhere I needed to go. My dad for a running partner that no one could beat. Finally, I'd like to thank all the family members of mine who donated money towards my capstone. Their donations were very much appreciated by me and by all those children who benefited from their generous givings. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Lauren. That was great. Next up is Jillian McLaughlin.
Hello students, faculty, and parents. My name is Jillian McLaughlin, and for my capstone project, I worked with Ben Speaks Louder Than Words. Ben Speaks Louder Than Words is a nonprofit organization that talks about anti-bullying. I chose to work with Ben Speaks Louder Than Words because I've seen the effect of bullying and what kids do when they get bullied, and I wanted to help be the change in our community. What I did to spread awareness was I sold bracelets for $2.50 that had inspirational words on them such as hope, faith, love, strength, dream, and courage. I sold them at BFCCPS at lunchtime and recess time for a week. I succeeded my goal of $300 by selling all the bracelets that I made for a total of $391. The money that I raised went to Ben Speaks Louder Than Words to bring in Judy Giovangelo, the founder of Ben Speaks, to BFCCPS. Judy Giovangelo is a professional speaker that goes to schools across Massachusetts talking to students about anti-bullying. I educated the community by talking to the students and teachers about Ben Speaks when I made the announcement at lunchtime and recess time. As I was selling the bracelets, I told them where the money that I will raise will go and how it will help Ben Speaks. I also educated my local community by using the money that I raised to bring in Judy Javangelo to the school, to have an assembly about how you can be the change in your community, and talk about what Ben Speaks does to help people. During the capstone process, I encountered a few obstacles. One of my obstacles that I faced was that I wanted to talk to Mrs. Alnowski and Judy about when we can have the assembly. And a week later, I didn't hear anything back from them. So to overcome this obstacle, I contacted Judy Javangelo and asked her if Mrs. Alnowski had talked with her. Judy Javangelo finally got back to me and told me that they were going to have a meeting soon. My second obstacle that I faced was that I wanted to have the assembly on Friday at one of the assembly periods, but I couldn't because Judy Javangelo was already booked. To overcome this obstacle, I had the assembly on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. My third and final obstacle that I faced was that I wanted the assembly to happen during school because then everyone in 6th through 8th grade would have an opportunity to come to the assembly. But since it was during a school night, the real obstacle was that I only had 25 people attend my assembly, and most of them were adults, and the assembly was more geared to the students. I will overcome this obstacle by bringing in a videotape that recorded the assembly to school and letting each class through 6th through 8th grade watch it so they can be more aware about what bullying can do to someone. The positive results that came out of my service was that the people that came to my assembly on October 17, 2013, left very thankful that they attended the presentation, and they left with an open mind in how they can be the change in our community. What I learned about my capstone and myself is that it impacted me in a very positive way, because if I didn't have the opportunity to work with Ben Speaks Louder Than Words, I don't think I would be the person I am today. I would like to thank my advising group for supporting me, my advisors, Mrs. L. and Mrs. Lockhart, for encouraging me. Everyone who bought a bracelet, donated to my capstone, and everyone who attended my assembly, my mommy and my daddy for driving me to the assembly and for giving me confidence, Judy Javangelo for letting me work with Ben Speaks, and most of all, Lorraine Hughes for helping me sell the bracelets, make the flyers for my bracelet sale, setting up chairs for my assembly, and thank you, Lorraine, so much for being there for me when I didn't know what to do if something went wrong during my capstone process. Lorraine, you are a true friend. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. And one more thing, you can be the change in our community also. All you need to do is stand up and be the change today. Thank you.
Nice job, Jillian, thank you. Next up, we have Sarthak Mahante.
Hello students, parents, and faculty. My name is Sarthak Mahanti, and for my capstone project, I am spreading awareness and fundraising for autism. I heard about autism from my mom when she was giving me ideas for capstone. I then researched about it, and I found out that autism is a mental condition which you develop from your early childhood years, and it affects your communication skills. Unfortunately, 1 in every 88 American children are affected with this disorder. I feel very sorrowful for those who are affected. This made me open my eyes, and from that day onwards, I knew I had to help with this cause. For this reason, I had chosen to do my capstone project on autism. During my project, I worked with the Autism Project of Rhode Island. They educated me more on autism, and I volunteered there and helped autistic children with communication activities. I helped kids in the range of 6 to 13-year-olds. Each kid was very different and had different levels of autism. In June of last year, I held a popsicle sale to raise money for autism. Also, I had a dinner party. I invited people from my neighborhood, and I gave a presentation on autism there. In my presentation, I talked about what autism is, statistics on autism, and if it can be cured. Also, I gave a packet which held information on autism to each family. I prepared flyers with instructions on how to help autistic children. These 4 events worked to help raise awareness and money. During my capstone project, I encountered 3 obstacles. One of my obstacles was delaying my progress. During the summer, I always convinced myself that I would get motivated the next day. I kept on repeating the cycle. Then school opened and I got involved in my academic life. This made me forget about capstone until November. At this point, I had only achieved one of the 3 goals. Luckily, a nice woman by the name of Miss L helped me through by giving me ideas.
Finally, I reached out to the organization and they arranged me with a few volunteer days. Fortunately, my third goal, which was to have a dinner party, was planned, but there was a problem. My second obstacle was I had too short of a notice to finish a presentation, packet, and display board. But I overcame this dilemma by working very hard and wasting no further time. My third and final obstacle was I did not communicate with the organization enough. After a while, they seemed to forget about my Capstone project, and I had to go through the recognition process all over again. This was a learning experience which will help me in my school years and beyond. I had many positive results in my Capstone project, which helped me learn many new aspects of my personality. One success in this project was the fundraising. I raised $350 in this project from popsicle sales and donations. My original goal was $200, and I was extraordinarily happy on how people reached out for the autistic children. My second success was the amount of people I was able to educate. I educated my aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, and friends. This helped me not just finish my Capstone project, but this also showed the autistic children how many and how much people care about them. Another positive result in my Capstone project is that I had the opportunity to meet and work with these marvelous children. When I was volunteering there, I met this outgoing 8-year-old girl who can't talk but can only make sounds. She communicated by a computer, and she participated in every activity and was the first one to help out. Only after meeting her for an hour, I felt as if she didn't let this disadvantage define her. Volunteering there educated me more than any textbook could have. Even though I had many obstacles, many successes had came out of the whole process. These successes were achieved by perseverance and determination. If I had to describe my Capstone project in one sentence, it would be difficult and time-consuming. But behind all this, there is a satisfactory feeling in yourself that you did something good. My advice to the upcoming 8th graders is just not completing for completion's sake, but to complete to benefit for the well-being of others. There were many people who assisted and advised me through this process. Today, I would like to recognize them. First of all, I would like to thank my advisors, Ms. Ward and Ms. L. Next, I would like to thank my fellow advisees. And I would like to also recognize the Autism Project of Rhode Island for helping me out. And definitely my mom and dad for giving me rides. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, that was great. Next up, we have Oliver Pearl.
Hello students, parents, and faculty of BFCCPS. My name is Oliver Pearl, and the Capstone project I chose to focus on was composting. Composting is the process of turning organic material into soil and plant fertilizers. It is one of the best ways to help the environment. I chose this because I started composting at my house and learned that it was a way to put leftover food to a good use and help the environment. I also wanted to do my project on something I didn't know a lot about. It's better than throwing leftovers away because it can be used to enrich soil instead of just filling up landfills. I plan on letting students and faculty use it for the school garden and its many flower beds. I decided to use this for Capstone because I thought it would help the school a lot and could make a change for the environment. I emailed a local farm in Franklin called Grateful Farms. The owners, Tim and Darcy, were very helpful and taught me how to compost and the amount of certain foods I needed and how to protect the compost pile throughout the year. During the summer, I added around 25 worms to the already started compost pile from 2 years ago. I turned the pile over every weekend and added grass from my house. I set up buckets in the 2 cafeterias and took them out almost every day at the end of the day and emptied them into the larger pile near the school garden. I had many friends in my grade help me do this throughout the year. I also added soil, water, and food scraps from my house during the summer and throughout the year. The students who took care of the school garden also added their vegetables to the compost pile, which was very helpful. I also added wooden planks on the outside to keep in heat for the winter. I plan on giving a prize to students towards the end of the year if enough compost was collected as well. I educated students in the school for my outreach. I did this by explaining what compost was, what is compostable, such as vegetables, orange peels, or apple cores, what not to compost, such as metal, plastic, or thick paper, where to put leftover food in the project that I was doing. I also planned on telling facts about recycling and how to help the environment every month, but thought it wasn't relevant enough to composting. I explained my project during 3 speeches to grades 1 through 8 in total. I did my first speech in the middle of September and my second and third speeches on the same day in October to grades 1 to 4. I had a couple of obstacles during my project. The first one was the amount of time between the speeches I gave was almost a month. This happened because I was a little nervous about giving speeches, but once I finally did it, it helped my project a lot. The second obstacle I faced was that I didn't initially get a lot of results after my first speech and only got a little bit of compost every day. This was a problem because I wouldn't have been able to have results for my project or actually help anyone. This was overcome when I gave my second and third speeches and got almost full buckets every single day from the younger students. The final obstacle that I had was the fact that I had to empty compost buckets every single day, and sometimes that was difficult to accomplish, but I still managed to do it for the most part. The positive results from my project were the amount of compost that was created and all the ways it can be used by the school. Another result was that almost the entire school was educated early in the year about a subject that helps the environment. I learned how important taking care of the environment is and how it can help and how it can take a lot of hard work. Before my project, I didn't know a lot about compost or how to help the environment at all. I was always nervous about talking in front of large groups, but learned to overcome this a little more because of all the speeches I gave to students in the cafeteria and my advisor group. I learned from doing those that I could give speeches in large groups and not get as nervous as I would have expected. I also learned how to prioritize and work hard because many of the things that I had to do were due on specific deadlines. I have some people I'd like to thank. First, my two advisors, Mrs. L. and Mrs. Ward. They helped guide me throughout my capstone process. Thank you to Mrs. Schwab, Tim and Darcy at Grateful Farms, and Mrs. Erkovic for teaching me about compost and helping me with my project over the year. Thank you, Mr. Perna, for helping me at the beginning of my project to get all of my ideas together. Thank you to my friends for helping me compost. And finally, thank you to my family for helping me take care of the compost pile, driving me to and from school and supporting me. Thank you for listening.
That concludes all those from my group, and we move on to Mr. Chris Heater, and he'll introduce his group to you.
Thank you very much. I'll keep it short and sweet. I also came into this 8th grade advising year halfway through the year, so I owe a huge debt of gratitude to Mr. Art Duke and all the work that he put in. Anyone who's gone through this process knows that the real hard work happens in the first half of the capstone process, trying to get the kids to understand what it is that would be good to do and how that fits into the goals of the capstone process. And Mr. Duke did all that for me. They came in knowing what they wanted to do and having completed most of it. I hope you enjoy the presentations. They are truly unique. There's some amazing projects that happen. And then some of them are truly impressive. Well, I thought all of them were impressive. I'd like to start off with Hunter Apgar, and he is doing his project on cleaning up litter.
Hello students, parents, and faculty of the BFCCPS community. My name is Hunter Apgar, and I would like to tell you about my capstone project. My capstone project was focused around cleaning up litter and raising awareness about the harmful effects of littering. I chose to do this project because we need to take care of our planet, because our planet is our home. If there is less trash on the ground, then our home will be a better place. My capstone project consisted of cleaning up litter with the Girl Scouts, educating the Girl Scouts about littering awareness, and educating a class of first graders about littering awareness. I educated 2 groups of Girl Scouts and a first grade class about litter, why it is bad to litter, and how long it takes some materials to decompose. Both the first graders and the Girl Scouts were interested in the information and were good audiences. They were excited to learn how they can make the world a better place. When I educated the first graders, I taught them how it was easier to break or destroy something than it is to fix or create something. To demonstrate this, I handed one of them a small piece of paper and told him to destroy it. After crumpling, ripping, and tearing the piece of paper into many small pieces, he asked me what he should do next. I told him, put it back together. The student had a hard time putting the paper back together, and I stopped him because he was taking too long. I explained how instead of destroying, then fixing our planet, we can fix it once, then rarely need to fix it again. After that, I showed them a creation that I made out of only paper. The first graders were amazed by the paper creation. I faced many obstacles while trying to complete my capstone project. One obstacle that I faced when I wanted to clean up was when I wanted to clean up Choe Park with the Cub Scouts. I mailed the leader of the group that I wanted to clean up Choe Park with, but I got no response from him. After his wife answered the phone and told me that she would give him the message when he got home, and I did not get a response for weeks, I decided to move on to another group of people. This annoyed me because I was part of this Cub Scout group when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I helped them a lot by selling popcorn to help fund the troop and by helping prepare for certain events that were part of the group. I knew I was losing time, so I chose to move on to the Girl Scouts. That was a good idea because I have not received a response to my calls and my letters, even today. I also faced other obstacles. One obstacle was that an email that was sent from, did not reach my inbox. She was the teacher of the class that I educated. Because I asked her about the day to teach the first graders later, the email problem did not stop me from educating the first graders. Another obstacle that I faced at the very beginning of my capstone project was that I received a yellow light. This means I had to revise my action plan and give them a revised copy. Many people had to revise their action plans, and it was not very difficult. I did my best work and got a green light after giving my revised action plan to my advisor. This meant I could continue with my capstone project. The positive effects of my capstone project are that Choe Park is cleaner and more people are educated about the harmful effects of littering. Now that they are educated about the harmful effects of littering, they are more likely to start similar projects in the future. I learned many things from my capstone project. I learned that first graders are cooperative when they are interested in the topic and the information you are giving them. I also learned that when people work together, they can make Earth a better place and complete tasks that would take one person a long time to complete. I would like to thank Mr. Heater, my current advisor, for guiding me through the end of the capstone process, and I would like to thank Mr. Duke, my previous advisor, for helping me through the beginning part of the capstone process. I would like to thank the Girl Scouts for taking their time to help me clean up Choe Park. I would like to thank my parents for helping me clean up Choe Park and supporting me through the capstone process and driving me everywhere I needed to go. And thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Next up, we have Delana Semino, whose project was called Older and Wiser.
Good morning, parents, faculty, and students. My name is Delana Semino, and for my capstone project, I focused on honoring senior citizens and also increasing awareness with friends, family, and members of my church about how important and valuable it is to do this. After a visit to the Forge Hills Senior Community with BFCCPS in 4th grade, I thought about how happy the residents were when we were doing a craft and to sing along with them. When it came time to pick out a capstone project, the idea Older and Wiser came to me. I decided to not just visit occasionally, but to go frequently and really get to know some of the residents. There was a lot of history I could learn from their first-person perspective. I knew they were older and wiser, and my hope was to finish the experience feeling the same myself. There were outreach steps to my project, which I accomplished by arranging 2 separate entertainment evenings for the residents. Each of these introduced a minimum of 10 new friends to the Fort Hill residents. Another form of outreach was to bring friends for simple visits with the residents to hear them speak about their lives. In the top left photo, you see Mike, who told some friends and I about Morse code and how he used it during World War II. There were significant obstacles during my capstone project as well. I was dependent on my parents for rides and could not always go when I wanted to. However, my toughest obstacles were dementia, departures, and death. Many of the residents suffer from dementia and wouldn't remember my visits. This was both frustrating and sad for me, and I almost gave up on the project. I overcame this when my mom and staff there told me that even if the residents don't specifically remember me, their joy and smiles every time I visit are real. Departure refers to the time I've gone to visit one of my friends and find they have been moved to other facilities. Tom and Barbara, who are shown on the slide, were my favorite married couple I visited until they were transferred after an incident over the summer.
The death of residents I've become close to is the most difficult obstacle I had to deal with, and I include a picture of Frank here, who I visited the most at the beginning of my capstone. Frank would light up every time I came in to visit and would ask me if I was Susie, his granddaughter. I would sit next to him on the lobby couch and we would talk about how he met his wife or his experiences in World War II. In December 2012, 11 residents of Forge Hill passed away, and Frank and 3 other friends of mine were included. I took a break after that, and when I went back in the spring, I met Johnny Tomasco and Ernest Schaefer, 2 residents with very different stories that I'll remember forever. Johnny Tomasco was outside in his wheelchair when I met him the first time. He asked my mother if she could help push him back to his room. He had a signed picture of a famous orchestra conductor and musician, Benny Goodman, in his room. I didn't know who this was, but I played 3 instruments and loved music, so I was fascinated as he talked about the clarinetist. On a future visit, Johnny asked us to watch the Benny Goodman story video, which lasted over 3 hours. Johnny is not able to play instruments anymore, so I have played my flute for him and he has given me breathing techniques. Johnny's family has had to move him twice due to specialized care he now needs, but I still visit him. I saved Ernest Schaefer for last because he illustrates the theme of my capstone perfectly. My family actually thought he was confused and making things up when we first met him, and he would refer to all of his accomplishments. Then, in November of 2013, we were able to see proof. He started as a Navy airman on December 7th, 1941, immediately following the bombing of Pearl Harbor. In the slide, I included a page from his logbook dated February 23rd, 1945, that was certified via a military stamp in his book. On this page, he describes helping to raise the flag at Iwo Jima. I have the arrow pointing to the soldier he claims to be. This is an iconic photo from World War II. When I researched, there were conflicting reports on who that soldier is, but Ernest's name does not come up. There's one reference to many soldiers who were nearby who helped, but are not pictured, so it's more likely he was one of them. However, everything else he has claimed has been proven to be true, so maybe it'll eventually be proven that this is him. Ernest graduated from Yale, where he boxed with a future U.S. middleweight boxing champion, and also met Eleanor Roosevelt twice. He was on the Raytheon engineering team that created the first global positioning system, what we now call GPS. As an official sculptor for the U.S. government, he created the revised presidential seal with the President of the United States in 1960. We found one news article that said Ernest, quote, has had more inventions than Leonardo da Vinci. I could not have completed my capstone project without the help of my parents, advisors, and friends, so I thank everyone who helped me along the way. I hope others who have participated during my capstone or hear about this will consider dropping in at a senior center. You'll see and feel the happiness of those you visit, and will get back much more than you give. I've learned so much from this experience and definitely consider myself older and wiser than when I began. Thank you.
Next up, we have Oliver Fernandez, whose project was on COPD.
Hello and good morning, students, faculty, and parents of BFCCPS. My name is Oliver Fernandez, and I did my capstone project on COPD. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The way that you can contract COPD is by smoking, breathing in bad environmental fumes, and having chronic asthma. This damages your lungs and makes it very difficult to breathe. I chose COPD because my grandfather died of it. This was a very sad time for me, and I miss him very much. My sister Izzy chose the COPD Foundation for her capstone 2 years ago by continuing to educate the students. This is called a legacy capstone. Maybe one of you will choose this or another legacy capstone for yourself. Izzy sold and launched hundreds of balloons into the air. I decided to raise air awareness by focusing on the air part. Blowing bubbles requires a good air exchange, so having a bubble blowing bonanza seemed like a good idea. My bubble blowing bonanza was held during the month of December. During the event, I sold tickets for a raffle basket that consisted of 12 canister of bubbles, one bubble wand, one bubble machine, and a card for somebody who has COPD. I also sold individual bottles of bubbles. When I held my event, it was not a very good day. It was cold outside, and the students did not quite know what was going on. They were very excited over the bubbles, but I did not advertise well enough. I only made about $6 to $8. Well, I guess you could say this is a failure to launch, but I stopped, regrouped, and re-strategized. So I booked another event. The second go-around, I learned my lesson. The day was not looking so great, and it was supposed to be outside again. Mr. Heater came up to me, and we thought of a solution. I was pretty scared that the solution was not going to go very well. The solution was that I was going to hold it indoors in the auditorium during the 1st through 8th grade lunches. This time it went very well. I improved with my advertising, and the outcome was much better. I made over $50 the second time around. When I saw the kids blowing the bubbles and having a good time, it put a smile on my face. One of my obstacles that I faced is that you should not procrastinate. My best advice for the 7th graders is not to procrastinate. You'll be miserable. Another obstacle is that I was lazy and I did not advertise. Well, I overcame this by putting more thought into my advertising for my second event. I advertised every day during lunches. Another obstacle was that I waited a long time to get my event done. I waited till November, December. My last obstacle was that I had to hold my event 2 times. One that kind of failed and one that was held indoors. I overcame this by persevering through the events. I was really scared during the second one because it was held indoors. Some positive things about my event that I got my project done in time. Another positive is that I reached my goal of $100 through my events and donations. Also, I made kids smile during the event. Another is that I educated grades 1 through 8th grade students about COPD. During the experience is that you should not be lazy with a giant project like Capstone. Also, don't wait till the last minute to do a blue sheet because all the dates might be taken up. Luckily, that did not happen to me. I would like to thank my mom and my dad for pushing me through the whole time. I would like to thank my sister for a great legacy, my aunt and my uncle for being with me and helping with both of my events. I would like to thank Mr. Duke, Mr. Heater, and Mr. Perna for all the support with my Capstone experience. And finally, I would like to thank the students who participated in my event. Thank you all for listening and have a good rest of your day.
Okay, next up we will have Brendan Keeney with soccer scholarships.
Hello students, faculty, and parents of the BFCCPS community. My name is Brendan Keeney, and for my Capstone project, I gave scholarships to 5 kids who could not afford to play soccer in Bellingham. I chose to work with an organization within the Bellingham Youth Soccer Association. I chose to do my Capstone on soccer scholarships because I love soccer and I think that kids should be able to play soccer if they want to. Some people have many kids in sports programs while others aren't as fortunate as other people. For my project, I wanted to change this. One of my goals for Capstone was to raise enough money to have at least 5 kids who are playing in the BYSA who could not previously afford to play. I needed to raise at least $300 for 5 kids to be able to play, so I wanted to have at least 10 kids show up for my soccer fun night. My final goal was to give back to the community and coach an instructional soccer team. I achieved all of my goals I had set for my Capstone project. I met my goal to have 5 kids in the BYSA who could not previously afford to do so. I wanted to raise $300 for the kids. I ended up meeting my goal at exactly $300. My final goal was to have at least 10 kids at my soccer fun night. I had at least 20 kids who showed up to my soccer fun night, which was double the amount I wanted to have. I educated many people about my Capstone project. I coached an instructional soccer team in Bellingham and told them about how fortunate they are to be playing when some kids cannot afford to play. I also had a popsicle sale in the summer, and I told kids and parents about my Capstone project and what the money would benefit. I emailed the people on the BYSA board and told them about my project. My soccer fun night was very successful and brought me closer to my goal of $300. Colin Flaherty, Cy Dadaretti, and my dad helped me with setting up. I had 4 stations with fun soccer activities. One of the stations was soccer juggling, where you had to juggle the ball as many times as you can without it hitting the floor. Every time you completed a station, you would get a prize. Every time someone new came to participate, I told them about my Capstone and gave them a soccer ball sticker. I ended up raising $123 from this event, which got me very close to my final goal of $300. I reached my goal of $300 because of generous donations from my relatives. I faced many obstacles
in my capstone project. My first obstacle was when I was planning to have a soccer clinic. No one signed up, so I had to cancel it. This was a major setback because the summer had already passed and I had only had one activity, my popsicle sale. I had a popsicle sale over the summer and I was planning to have another popsicle sale, but all the popsicles melted. Another obstacle was that I had to reschedule my soccer clinic because the church was using the school on the day I wanted to have my soccer fun night. On step 4, I got a red light, which was a huge setback, and I had to go back and rethink my plans. Those were the obstacles I had to face during the capstone process. To overcome these obstacles, I had to persevere through many challenges. When my soccer clinic was canceled, I had to plan a soccer fun night in September instead of the summer. This turned out to be better than having the soccer fun night in the summer because most kids were still on vacation. When my popsicles melted, I was planning to buy more popsicles, but my parents and I decided that we were going to have a different event. When I got a red light on step 4, I had to overcome this by adding lots of details to step 4. There were many positive outcomes for my project. I raised $300 for kids who cannot afford to play soccer. I'm very proud of myself because I impacted 5 kids' lives for the greater good. I overcame many obstacles and did not give up so kids could have the opportunity to play sport. I have not made a huge change in the world, but it may seem like that for the 5 kids I raised money for. I learned many things from the capstone process. I learned about hard work and perseverance. If something doesn't work out, you should try again and again until it does. I also learned that I am a very fortunate kid because some kids in the world are less fortunate and cannot afford to play sports. You shouldn't procrastinate because deadlines come quicker than you expect, so you should get things done earlier. I did not host my first event until the beginning of the school year, which I did not intend to do. I'd like to thank many people. I'd like to thank Mr. Heater and Mr. Duke for helping me and guiding me throughout the capstone process. My parents were motivating me and driving me to my soccer games every Saturday morning. Cy Dotteretti, Colin Flaherty, and the Franklin Girls U14 soccer team for helping me with my soccer fun night. Jeff Bloom and Mike Jones for giving me the opportunity to coach. And finally, Papa Gino's of Franklin for donating 6 boxes of pizza for my soccer fun night. Thank you for listening and have a good day.
Next up, we will have Harsha Praki with environmental awareness.
Hello, BFCCPS parents, faculty, and students. My name is Harsha Praki, and for my capstone project, I put my efforts towards spreading awareness of environmental issues affecting humanity and the eco-friendly things we can do to make our world more green by doing little things like recycling to implementing green energy in our daily lives. Environmental awareness is to understand the fragility of our environment and the importance of its protection. While coming up with the capstone project idea, I felt that promoting environmental awareness would be an easy way to participate in creating a brighter future for our world. Aldo Leopold once said, "Harmony with land is like harmony with a friend. You cannot cherish his right hand and chop off his left." Environmental awareness was an integral part to my project's success. To persuade and spread awareness throughout my school community, I created PowerPoints with videos that I presented to Mrs. Erkovic's 3rd grade class and organized for the students to participate in activities involving the environment. I also decided to have a bottles and cans drive to collect recyclable material to organize a recycled arts and crafts class. With the help of our wonderful school art teacher, Mrs. Wolf, I was able to organize this successful event without any obstacles. During this event, I read the group of 4th graders the book, Beautiful Oops by Barney Salzberg, basing the art project on the quote, "A smudge and a smear make magic appear," from this book. This book promoted reducing, reusing, and recycling through art, from taking something beautiful and taking something wasteful and turning it into something beautiful. Later in the year, I installed a working solar panel in a 3rd grade classroom. Throughout the capstone journey, I faced many obstacles, mainly regarding my solar panel installation. Earlier this year, I contacted an organization called Secondary Solar Panels and consulted them with my project plans. I soon met with one of the representatives from this organization, and he helped me finish my capstone project. He educated me on how a solar panel works and how beneficial it is to the environment. I got to experience the installation of solar panels and learned a lot about solar energy. Although this was a great opportunity and it would have helped my capstone project tremendously, I soon realized that this organization was looking for something more involved and complicated that was not similar to my project. I then decided to use the money I raised instead earlier this year to build a solar panel. This plan was not as successful as I thought it would be, as I did not have the necessary equipment to build it. I overcame this obstacle by looking for more effective and portable solar panels to buy instead, in the price range that I was looking for, which was about $150 to $200. My goal was to buy a solar panel able to power at least 2 LED lights for the third grade plans. Although these setbacks had a great impact on my overall project, I persevered through this difficult task and successfully installed a solar panel. My overall project turned out to be very successful. I spread awareness through media with the third grade, conducted a creative arts and crafts class, installed a green energy-powered solar panel, and accomplished all my set goals. Through this project, not only did I learn how to overcome obstacles and help my community grow, but I also built communication skills with peers, teachers, and organizations. Through this project experience, I proved Margaret Mead's famous quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world." Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, among the young 3rd and 4th graders. Through this, I have learned that success only comes from failure, as said in Winston Churchill's quote, "Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." In the future, I will learn a lot more about the environment and the effects of global warming and how to mitigate and control the effects of global warming and ways I can help our community and the world. BFCCPS has built a strong foundation for my future and has assisted me throughout the Capstone journey. I would like to thank my whole school community for supporting me throughout this project. I would like to give a special thanks to my parents, my advisors, Mr. Heater and Mr. Duke, my advisees, Mrs. Urkovic in her 3rd grade class, Mrs. Wolf, Claudia, Delana, Lauren, Grace, Karen, and Sana for helping me make this year-long project a success. And always remember, what you do today can improve all your tomorrows. Thank you.
I have to say, I think that's one of my favorite projects that I've seen in the years that I've been watching projects, not because of its success, but because of the failures that it took to get to that success. And she didn't tell you about all of them. There were more in dealing with that solar panel, and she just never quit, never gave up, never stopped. And I want to throw one more quote into those. Thomas Edison, after trying hundreds of times to invent the light bulb, was asked, "Why do you keep doing it? You keep failing. And he said, "I now know hundreds of ways in which it will not work." And that's exactly what Harsha learned, I think, throughout her project. So excellent job. Our next speaker is Sana Sheikh, and her project is on big health education.
Good morning, parents, teachers, and students of the BFCCPS community. My name is Sana Sheikh, and for my Capstone project, I chose to raise money and awareness for poverty in India. What is poverty? Poverty is getting up every morning with a growling stomach and having to deal with not being fed that day. What are the causes of poverty? Many families are poor because of natural disasters and passed down poverty. Passed down poverty is when a child is born into a poor family. People also lack in education, making it hard for them to get a job and earn money for food and other necessities. I chose to work with an organization called Big Help for Education. What is Big Help? Big Help for Education is a nonprofit organization dedicated for uplifting the underprivileged children in India through education. Big Help sponsors around 600 kids and provides support to 150 public schools in India. It sends poor children to school and helps them get a good education to become successful in their future. I chose to work with Big Help because my dad is the founder and president of this organization, and since I was little, both him and my mom have encouraged me to help the poor and uneducated. I have seen the helplessness of the children on the streets of India, begging for money to buy themselves a small meal to satisfy their stomachs until the next day, and I felt very sorry for them. What did I do for Big Help? I educated others about my capstone project by selling rainbow balloon bracelets and having an art workshop at another organization called TAGB. During the art workshop, I sold wooden hangings shaped as various animals and flowers that could be hung in bedrooms for the little children to paint, and I also sold wooden magnets. During the art workshop, I also handed out pamphlets about Big Health and what it has done. And I also talked to many people about the poverty in India and how they could help. Along with raising awareness and money, I also volunteered, danced, and taught a dance for Big Health's annual function on January 11, 2014. I volunteered as a master of ceremony for the event along with my friend Kieran Kodapalli. One of the obstacles I faced right when I started my capstone experience was not being thorough in my step 4, which led me to get a red on my first encounter with presenting what I was going to do for my capstone project. I then had to come up with new ideas and ways to fundraise because my first ideas were not clear and thought out. My initial idea to raise money was to have a bake sale, but I quickly learned that we could not have bake sales anymore, and I would have to come up with a new idea. My next obstacle was to then redo Step 4 action plan with corrections and implement any suggestions that the teachers that I presented to gave me. This leads to my last obstacle, which was not being able to go to India and volunteer at the school there because of a misfortunate event in my family. The positive results of my project is that I raised $300 for Big Health, which means I have given an education to a child in need for 2 years, and I will be raising more awareness about Big Health and raising more money for the child I'm sponsoring even after I graduate, because I feel that it is my duty to make sure the child that I'm sponsoring has a good education and becomes successful in their future. I learned many things in my capstone journey, such as always being prepared and having fun with what I do. I also learned much more about Big Health and India's poverty level and how it is slowly decreasing with the help of organizations such as Big Health for Education. Lastly, I would like to thank many people that helped me throughout my capstone journey. My parents, Chand and Hamida, who encouraged me through my whole capstone and helped me with any obstacles that I faced. My friends, Kieran, Jillian, Harsha, Lorin, Delana, Lauren, Caroline, Claudia, and Katie, who helped me make over 200 rainbow balloon bracelets. The numerous 5th graders that generously donated bracelets for my sale. My current advisor, Mr. Heater, and my past advisor, Mr. Duke, both who helped me start off my capstone project and successfully finish. My advisees, Mr. Perna, who gave me many ideas on how to start off my capstone. And lastly, I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jack Stavely with the Special Olympics.
Hello students, faculty, and parents of BFCCPS. My name is Jack Stavely, and for my capstone project, I will work with Special Olympics Mass. This is an organization that holds sports events during all 4 seasons for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Also, as a part of my capstone, I work with another organization called Spread the Word to End the Word. This is an organization that raises awareness about the negative effects of the use of the R word, which is retarded. I chose to work with Special Olympics for 2 reasons. One is that I absolutely love sports. The second reason is that my uncle has developmental disabilities, and I've always felt comfortable around him and enjoyed his company. Because of these 2 reasons, I felt like Special Olympics was a fantastic organization to focus my capstone on. The second organization I worked with was Spread the Word to End the Word. I chose to work with because I felt like the word retarded is an awful, hurtful word that never needs to be said. The first Special Olympics event that I volunteered at was the basketball winter event in the Worcester area with my mom. At this event, we kept scoring stats of the games throughout the day, and I was able to congratulate the athletes after they were finished with their games. At this event, I had a great time and was looking forward to the next event that I would volunteer at. After the winter games, I looked into volunteering at the summer games. Months later in August, Joe Clark, my dad, and I volunteered at a golf event at Granby Municipal Golf Course in Granby, Mass. During this event, we were assigned to the first hole to hand out water bottles and cheer on the golfers and athletes. After everyone in the tournament had finished playing their 18 holes, we moved on to the award ceremony. At the ceremony, we congratulated the athletes and gave the medals to the 3 winners. To educate others on the focus of my capstone, I talked to grades 5 through 8 on the effects of the R word and one of the organizations I work with, Spread the Word, Gender Word. I also handed out a flyer on the topic. On the flyer, I included pictures and quotes from the Spread the Word, Gender Word website and my own writings. From what I saw, the students listened to my speech and looked at my flyers. Because of this, I think the students got something out of it. During my capstone project, I faced a few different obstacles. The first obstacle I faced in the project was getting someone to come volunteer with me at the second Special Olympics event. I asked 3 people to come with me, but the date did not work for 2 of them. Thankfully, my friend Joe Clark was able to come volunteer with me. We volunteered in an event and had a great time. The last obstacle I faced during capstone was finding Special Olympics dates that worked for me. Some of the events I was interested in volunteering at, could not because I was on vacation or had another conflict. I worked around this by finding events right when they were being scheduled to volunteer at and then clearing my schedule for that date. These were the only major obstacles that occurred during my project. During my capstone project, I felt like there were many positives that came out of it. I think the biggest positive was that at both the golf and basketball Special Olympics events, I was able to be around the athletes with disabilities and have conversations with them, especially at the golf event. I had a good time talking with them and learning about their lives. Another positive result of my project was that I considered my speech and handing out flyers a success, and I think because of it, the R word will not be said as much. One last positive from my project was that when I brought a friend to come volunteer at an event with me, he said that he had a great time volunteering, and he said that he might be interested in volunteering again. This would be great because Special Olympics is always in need of volunteers. I learned a lot of valuable lessons during the capstone experience. I think the biggest lesson I learned was that community service is not boring, that it is fun. While volunteering at the Special Olympics event, I had a great time and got a lot out of it. Another lesson I learned was that the capstone is not a boring, uninteresting project. Going into the project, I did not think I was going to have as much fun with it as I did. I was certainly wrong. In fact, I had a great time and would like to volunteer at more events in the near future. I would like to thank the following people for helping me with my capstone. My advisor, Mr. Heater, and my old advisor, Mr. Duke. Mr. Perna and Ms. Solnowski. My parents for driving me to the events and volunteering with me. Joe Clark for volunteering at an event with me, and everyone else who helped out. Thank you.
Next up, we have Michael Welch with football and cheerleading scholarships.
Hello, faculty, students, and parents of the BFCCPS community. My name is Michael Welch, and for my capstone project, I created scholarships within the Franklin Chargers Pop Warner Youth Organization. The Franklin Chargers is a nonprofit organization that offers children ages 7 to 14 years the opportunity to participate in football and cheerleading. I'd wanted to do something locally from the start of my capstone project, as I felt that a local capstone would have more impact on my community as well as myself if I did something that always meant a lot to me. That's why I chose this capstone, because I felt that everyone should be able to play sports, even if their family could not afford for that child to do so. The fact that I've loved playing football in the Chargers organization for the past 7 years helped my decision, as I wanted everyone with a wish to play football or cheer a chance to do so. The first goal of my capstone was the outreach step. In this step, I educated my community in several ways. The first way that I educated my community is that I spoke to all of the grades from 2nd grade up to 7th grade last year during their PE classes. When I spoke to the gym classes, I told them about what I was doing in my capstone, the benefits of getting exercise and playing sports, as well as how they could help support me in my capstone. When I held raffles at Franklin Chargers-sponsored events and at several home games during the regular season, I had a trifold set up near my table for people who wanted to learn more about what a capstone was and what I was doing. I also brought a friend to one of my raffles to help out and to explain to him in greater detail what I was doing. The second goal of my capstone was to hold raffles and raise the money necessary to make the scholarships. My goal was to raise at least $400 or enough to fund 2 players in the organization to complete this goal. I ended up holding 5 raffles over the course of my capstone project with items completely donated to raffle off. I ended up raising $1,019, which was enough to fund 5 players. My third and final goal was to create scholarships within the Franklin Chargers Pop Warner Youth Organization. I was able to do this by working with the Franklin Chargers Board of Directors and specifically their president, Bruce Johnson, who allowed me to help. Over the course of completing this project, I encountered a few obstacles. The first one was that I was given a red light on my Step 4 action plan to start off my capstone. This meant that I had to resubmit my action plan and get a new date for another action panel and get a green light in under 2 weeks to stay on track with my capstone. I overcame this obstacle by resubmitting my Step 4 action plan a couple days later, fixed with all of the corrections that the panel had suggested, as well as being much better done than my original. I managed to get another panel early the next week and was back on track with my capstone. The next obstacle I faced was in implementing my action plan. To hold raffles, I needed things to raffle off, so I contacted many large companies and organizations and asked them for donations. The problem with this was that I was very slow at filling out the forms to ask for donations. Many companies either did not reply or said that they couldn't help me, normally due to the fact they were asked for so many donations each year. I had a little trouble with procrastination during my capstone, which is what you will hear from pretty much every person presenting today and tomorrow. And the biggest help to me in this was a great support group in the form of my mom. Whenever I would begin to procrastinate, my mom would remind me over and over again that I needed to get working on my capstone. My capstone had a really good positive effect on my community as well. The most important impact is that I raised enough money for 5 kids to either cheer or play football in the Franklin Chargers Pop Warner organization. I held 5 raffles, which consist of 2 gift baskets, a jersey, a signed photo, and American Girl doll to raise that money. I would like to thank Mr. Heater, my current advisor, Mr. Duke, my previous advisor, my advising group, Danny Angermeyer for helping out at a raffle, Mr. Bruce Johnson for allowing me to help within the Chargers organization, many large companies including Applebee's, British Beer Company, Dick's Sporting Goods, and 5 Woods for generous donations, the Boston Red Sox for a large donation, Vince Wilfork, my family, and especially my mom for driving me everywhere and always pushing me to finish on time and achieve more than I needed to. Thank you.
Mr. Duke, you need to know that when they were doing their presentations and practicing it, most of them were saying, "My old advisor, Mr. Duke," and I thought that was great. I said how much I enjoyed hearing that, and they all apparently changed it, so oh well. Last, we have Joey Zepp and his work with service dogs.
Good morning, students, parents, and faculty at BFCCPS. My name is Joey Zeff, and for my capstone I chose to work with service dogs. I chose this topic because I really like dogs and thought working with them would be really fun and interesting. Service dogs are trained and very smart dogs that work with people that have any kind of difficulties from immobility to blindness and more. The organization I chose to work with was Service Dog Project in Ipswich, Mass. Every year they donate over 45 Great Danes as service dogs to people who have severe balance and immobility limitations. These dogs provide a valuable service and enhance the quality of life for their owners. Service Dog Project has placed dogs with children, war veterans, and more. This organization gives each dog extensive training, and once the dog and an applicant are paired, the dog is uniquely trained to suit the individual needs. I really enjoyed working with this organization. I encountered a few obstacles throughout this capstone process. My first obstacle was finding an organization that allowed me to work with service dogs in public. I originally thought I would be able to take a dog home and train it in public, but unfortunately there was an age restriction and I wasn't able to work with my first choice. Eventually, I found Service Dog Project in Ipswich, Mass. that allowed me to help at their organization. Unfortunately, Ipswich is over an hour away from Bellingham, so I wasn't able to volunteer as much as I wanted. Another obstacle that I had that I had was fundraising. I wanted to have a jersey day that would benefit my capstone by raising money and giving it to Service Dog Project. When I emailed Mr. Perna about this, he told me there are already jersey days reserved and I couldn't have one. It took me a while to think of a new way to raise awareness, so I thought of doing a hot chocolate sale. But just like the jersey days, too many hot chocolate sales were already reserved. So I wasn't able to raise money for the organization, but I was able to raise awareness. I raised awareness by talking to Miss Setti's first grade class, and I explained what service dogs are, why they're important, and what I did to help out. I also created a flyer about service dogs, which was included in the pink sheet. The positive results that I had, that I learned that service dogs are extremely important, and I realized you need to educate other people about the needs of service dogs. Service Dog Project are mostly volunteer organizations funded by the generosity of people. I also learned without service dogs it would be a huge problem because people with mobility difficulties or blindness or anything would not be able to move around. I would like to thank a few people for helping me through this process. I would like to thank my parents for driving me and helping me throughout this capstone project. My first advisor, Mr. Duke, for getting me started on this project. My current advisor, Mr. Heater, for advising me and helping me finish this project. Ms. Setti for allowing me to talk to her class about my capstone project. And finally, Mr. Perna for giving me new ideas to raise awareness for my capstone. Thank you.
We have gone through two groups. We do have one group that is left to present, but before we do that, I'm going to give you guys about a minute to stand up and stretch. Awesome job, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce Mr. Callahan, who's going to introduce his group. This is his 5th time working with a group of students through our capstone process, and every year he amazes me with how well he works with the students and gets them through this process. So thank you very much, Mr. Callahan.
Good morning, guests, parents, students. Thank you, Ms. Zelnowski, for those kind words. Before I continue, yes, this is a tie. For those of you wondering, I do own one. This is my 5th time, but I'm always amazed. When I start the capstone process, I think that I've seen all of the organizations or creativity from the groups. And each year, I'm always amazed at some of the creativity, some of the groups, and the reaching out that the 8th graders do. So congratulations to all of you for all your hard work at the capstone. I first want to introduce, and again, I want to say that I had the privilege of working with my group for 3 years. So I'm the old advisor and the new advisor. But I did have the privilege of working with them, and I enjoyed it very much. So without further ado, the first person I want to introduce is Red Dole, and he's going to do Lahare organization.
Hello, students and faculty. My name is Ved Dole. For my capstone project, I'm helping Lahare, which is a unique organization based in India. This non-profit organization has two orphanages, and I'm working with the orphanage in Pulgaon, Pune. This branch is giving full care to 10 orphans, and the organization provides these children with an education, a hope, and basic necessities such as food, water, and medication. I chose this certain organization because the summer before 7th grade, I had the great opportunity to meet these children and socialize with them. This inspired me to base my capstone on these children who need support and love. I raise money and spread awareness in my community for these children who need supplies. The money raised for Lahare comes from volunteers making and selling Indian food in a certified kitchen in America and sending the funds over to the orphanage in India. I volunteered during one of their cooking events. There I helped pack the holiday snack packages, which contained Indian sweets, Indian trail mix, and Indian fried chips. Also, I helped them by cutting the cling wrap that wraps the packages, and I cut the ribbons that tie the cling wrap together. I then put together a few packages. After the packages were made, I loaded everyone's car with the food that they would distribute. To raise money, I had a wristband sale. With this money, I planned to buy school supplies for the kids in India. For my wristband sales, I made announcements about my capstone project and talked about Lahare and what they do to help. I sold my wristbands for 50 cents each and had flyers with them to educate the students about Lahare. My last plan to spread awareness was by having 9 of my peers and I give pen pals to 10 orphans in India. This will help spread awareness by having students learn about their daily lives. By raising awareness, I attempted to create a spark of interest in my community. During my capstone process, I've encountered many obstacles, but I had 3 major obstacles. The biggest obstacle out of the 3 is definitely dilatoriness, or as many of you know it as procrastination. During the second half of the 7th grade year and the following summer, I totally forgot about the capstone with the excitement of summer. With every free day that I had, my capstone project drifted farther and farther from my mind. But in mid-November, Mr. Perna and Mr. Callahan guided me towards the correct path, which helped me get back on track and have a chance to present today. My second obstacle was when the wristbands did not arrive on time. This prevented me from selling my wristbands during parent-teacher conferences. I overcame this obstacle by having a plan B, which was to sell my wristbands for 1 week during lunch for the 5th to 8th graders. My third obstacle was the process of delayed letters. The students who were writing a pen pal letter to the kids in the orphanage had many other important projects at the time. This made them hand it to me late, and this prolonged the process of me sending the letters to the kids in India. I overcame my obstacle by embracing perseverance. In my capstone project, I've had some difficulties, but the hard work for solutions finally paid off. One of my greatest successes in this project was the amount of money I had made. My original goal last year was to raise $50 for the school, but instead I had raised $90. I was considerably happy. My second achievement was being able to volunteer at one of Larry's packing days and being able to meet different people who are passionate for this cause. Both of these events have helped me mature and understand the benefits and struggles of hard work. For the future 8th graders, I have a quote that I'd like to share with you from Mother Teresa. I know God won't give me anything I can't handle. I just wish He didn't trust me so much. This quote means that whatever the capstone process throws at you, you're going to handle it no matter what. I'd like to thank the many people that have helped me through this capstone process. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Callahan for supporting me through this process. Next, I'd like to thank my advisees. Next, I'd like to thank Colin Flaherty, Kalaya Moshe, Nina Pendekar, Sartak Mohanty, Michael Welch, Johnny Saldana, Aiden McAllister, Sana Sheikh, and Lauren Lockhart for writing letters to the kids in India. Next, I would like to thank my mom and dad for supporting me through this whole process. Lastly, I'd like to thank Larry, not just for helping me, but for helping those kids in India. Thank you very much.
Nice job, Fred. Next, I'd like to introduce Cedric Fahey, who worked with the Pine Street Inn and Walk for Hunger.
Hello students, parents, and faculty of BFCCPS. My name is Cedric Fahey, and for my capstone project, I helped Pine Street Inn. I was introduced to Pine Street Inn when I told my dad that I'd like to help homeless people for my capstone project. He recommended that I help Pine Street Inn because he used to work with them. Pine Street Inn is a homeless organization in Boston that was founded in 1969. I contacted Pine Street Inn trying to see if I could volunteer. When somebody named Scotty picked up, I learned that I needed to be in high school to volunteer. When I asked what I could do, they said that there may be an event in the future, like making sandwiches, that I could participate in. When I asked Scotty if I'd be able to hold a drive of some sort for Pine Street Inn, she said that would be great if I could hold a food drive. But to do so, I need to contact another person. I was given the number of a man named Jack Nolan, who's in charge of all food donations to Pine Street Inn. I tried contacting this man many times, but unfortunately, I only got his voicemail. A few months later, I saw on the Pine Street website that Scotty was looking for volunteers to help Pine Street Inn pass out water at the Walk for Hunger. When I contacted Scotty and asked if I'd be able to volunteer at the water area, I was told that'd be great if I could volunteer. My dad came with me to Cleveland Circle to pass out water. It was a very hot day, so everyone was busy passing out water, people both running and walking. That was in May. I did not get a lot of work done in early or midsummer, but in late summer, I did get quite a bit of work done. I teamed up with Project Alex. Project Alex was founded by Miss Sandy in 2006 when her son Alex was tragically hit by a car. Miss Sandy is a family friend, and when I contacted her, she said that would be great if I held my food drive at her walk. I knew that there was another walk that day, so I would need to try really hard to raise awareness for this event. I drove around town that way, handing out flyers at places like Shaw's, TC Scoops, and Show Park, along with 13 other places around Medway. I also handed out flyers at the Forest School picnic, as some of you may know. The race was on September 7th on a Saturday. My goal was to get 2 whole bins of food when I began the project. Mrs. Handy helped me out even more by making one non-perishable food item part of the admission fee. Unfortunately, a lot of people attending the race signed up at the race, so they did not bring any donations because they did not know about my food drive. When all was said and done, I had successfully collected 2 whole bins of food. Instead of calling Pine Street in to say that I had completed my food drive for them, I emailed them. As it turned out, the man who I was working with, Mr. Nolan, was not just ignoring me whenever I called him, but instead he had work hours almost identical to my school hours. I also offered to tour the facility. Because of Mr. Nolan's work hours, I could not bring the food to Pine Street in myself, but Mom did so the next day. A few months later, I left school early with an orthodontist appointment. Instead of going back to school at 1 o'clock, I went to Pine Street Inn. Pine Street Inn is about an hour from my house. When I got there, I was shown the facility. I learned that it was held up by about 500 employees. I also got to sign a book for all donors to Pine Street Inn. If I had to make any suggestions to you, it would be to buy a new plastic capstone folder when you start school, because as you can see, mine is severely torn. Mr. Callahan gave me a new one, but when I found out, but unfortunately some very important papers had already fallen out. I would like to thank some people that helped me during my capstone process, like my mom and my dad, for driving me everywhere and giving me ideas for my capstone process. I'd like to thank my advisor, Mr. Callahan, for always helping me, and my advisees for being extremely supportive during my capstone process. I'd like to thank Mrs. Handy for letting me hold a food drive at her run/walk, Scotty for letting me volunteer at the Walk for Hunger, and Mr. Nolan for letting me hold a food drive in Pine Street Inn's name, and Mrs. Sandy for letting me hold the drive at her race. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening to me as I present my capstone process.
Thank you, Cedric. Well done. Next, I'd like to introduce Brianna Gatto, who worked with the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Hello students, faculty, and parents of BFCCPS. I chose to do my project on Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, also known as DMD. DMD is a lethal genetic disorder. It affects only young boys with symptoms manifesting between the ages of 3 and 5. It strikes 1 in every 3,500 boys worldwide. Initially, children with DMD may appear normal, but their muscle cells soon begin to deteriorate due to a faulty gene. The child suffers a slow and painful deterioration of most of the muscles of the body. Respiratory and cardiac complications usually take the life of the child before the age of 20. To date, there is not a treatment for the cures for these boys. We are hoping research will lead to a cure for DMD. I chose this foundation because not many people know about DMD, and I have a friend named Ryan who has this disease. My friend Ryan has a foundation, Ryan's Hope Foundation, that his parents started when he was diagnosed at the age of 2. This foundation is raising money for research of this disease. I told my friends and family that I was going to be helping out Ryan's Hope Foundation at Panera Fun Night, hosted by Panera Bread in Plainville, Massachusetts. I helped sell bracelets and participated in fun events like face painting, games, and a magic show. Panera donated $3,700 to the foundation. I also went to a POSOX event that asked Ryan to announce the beginning of the game by saying "play ball." Along with that, I educated my neighbors, friends, and family in the BFCCPS community on DMD by passing out flyers explaining the disease and how we can help by donating to Ryan's Hope Foundation. I chose to do a can and bottle drive in my neighborhood this summer. I collected 4,000 cans and bottles and raised $200. Last year, I wanted to raise more money and decided to buy an iPod Touch. I could sell tickets and bracelets and raffle them off. I asked BJ's for a donation, and they gave me $25. I sold 164 tickets and bracelets. One of the obstacles was collecting cans and bottles. At first, the neighbors would bring them over on Saturdays, but then the amount of cans started to dwindle. I ended up walking around the neighborhood with a wagon collecting cans from their houses. Another obstacle was not selling enough raffle tickets the night of the picnic. I overcame this by extending my raffle for one more week and sold more tickets. One of the positive results from my project was realizing how caring people really are when you take the time to ask for help. I feel that I have made a change in many people's lives by setting an example of community service, especially for my brother and my sister. Another positive result was giving the foundation a check for $450. This included my bottle and can drive, my iPod raffle, BJ's donation, and my donation. The most positive experience was seeing how a mother and father can turn something so devastating into something so positive. Ryan's Hope Foundation has helped raise thousands of dollars over the last 11 years. This money has gone to research to help find a cure for this disease. They have committed so much time and energy over the last 11 years for their son Ryan and other boys. The fight will never end for them. I have learned when you set a plan, you are truly committed to it, and you can do anything. You always have to have a plan A, B, or even a C. With all these plans, you hope to end up with the same result, and you usually do. I have also learned from my mom, life always gives you surprises. You always need to be prepared. This has been one of the best experiences in my life so far. I will always be a part of this foundation, even though my project is complete. I'd like to give a special thanks to Ryan, Linda Hastings, and their family for letting me work with their foundation and being so supportive throughout my capstone project. Lisa Olivo for introducing me to her sister Linda and telling me about their family's foundation. Mr. Callahan, my advisor, for guiding me and giving me advice. My neighbors, friends, and family for helping me spread awareness and fundraise. The BFCCPS community for helping me reach my goals. My mom, dad, brother, and sister for helping me with collecting and redeeming cans and bottles, being a part of this fundraiser, and helping me stay on track. I could not have done it with all of you. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Bree. Great job. Next, I'd like to introduce Aiden McAllister, who worked with the Arbor Day Foundation in tree planting.
Hello, students, parents, and faculty of BFCCPS. My name is Aiden McAllister, and I did my capstone on deforestation. Deforestation is a big issue, and I wanted to do something to fight it. I decided to do this for my capstone because I've always cared about the environment and felt that currently deforestation is one of the biggest environmental issues we face. One of the inspirations I had for this project was in first grade when we got a tree seedling for Earth Day. I started out on this long journey by researching what places were impacted by deforestation, what was happening as a result of this, and why these places were victims of deforestation. I found that in many cases, deforestation came about because of people and companies wanting to build things, and they knocked down trees to make room. After confirming what I wanted to do for my capstone project, I began looking into a wide variety of organizations to work with. Although there were many groups dedicated to fighting deforestation, I saw the Arbor Day Foundation and was drawn to it. They seemed to be very serious about fighting deforestation, so I decided to try to work with them. However, before I could work with them, I needed to figure out exactly what it was that I wanted to do. There were so many options available in terms of helping. To narrow this list, I looked at what Capstone is really about. Working to help a cause in some way and to educate the community. While initially I was struggling to think of something to do, my advisor, Mr. Callahan, gave me some good ideas. Eventually, I decided to use the Arbor Day Foundation to sell customizable cards. Each card would cost $5.95, and for every one sold, a tree would be planted. My other approach was to actually obtain trees from a nursery and then plant them with a kindergarten. I contacted the Arbor Day Foundation and immediately received a positive reply. The Arbor Day Foundation was founded in 1972. They came about on the 19th year that Arbor Day was observed. Their goal is to preserve forests and trees all over the world and educate people about the importance of trees. They were willing to help me with the project, but I had to wait as my project had not yet been approved. Once my capstone was given the green light, I was able to set up the card selling with the Arbor Day Foundation. To do this, I called them, and they helped me set up an account which anyone could access and buy a card from. This would enable me to track how many sales I was getting. There were some issues in setting this up due to technical problems. Eventually, I was able to resolve this. While the card selling did have a slow start, I did manage to sell out 2 dozen cards, which I feel is pretty good considering each one got a tree planted. I am very grateful to the Arbor Day Foundation because without them, I could not have done this. After this, I had to focus on getting trees from a nursery. While at first this seemed easy, it proved to be very challenging. I sent emails, letters, and even went in person to ask for donations, but I either got no response or the nursery said that they didn't have what I was looking for. I realized that time was slipping away, so I began thinking of other possible ideas. Eventually, I decided I would purchase tree seeds instead of tree seedlings. This was a much cheaper option, so I did not have to have a fundraiser. It also allowed me to act quickly because the seeds could be quickly ordered online. Once I got the seeds, I typed and printed a set of directions for planting them. My family and I divided the seeds and directions and put them in 50 Ziploc bags. I then went down to the kindergarten classrooms and the teachers allowed me to give the students the bags of seeds. I did face some obstacles throughout my capstone project. One of the issues I faced was procrastination. Procrastination is an issue that plagues many students during capstone. While in the end everything went well, I feel that things would have happened sooner if I forced myself to do everything on time, even if I really do not want to. The other issue was out of my control, and this was lack of communication on the nursery's part. If they had told me ahead of time that they would not have been able to help me, I would have moved on a lot faster. I learned many things throughout my capstone project. One of the biggest things I learned was perseverance. While not everything will go your way, it is important to never give up. I also learned about the importance of community service and how much just one person can help. There were many people who I could not have completed my capstone project without. I would like to sincerely thank the following people: my advisor, Mr. Callahan, Mr. Perna, Mrs. Somowski, the Arbor Day Foundation, my parents, and my fellow advisors. Thank you for listening and have a good day.
Thank you, Aiden. Great job. Next, I'd like to introduce Kelly Park, who worked with the National Eczema Association.
Good morning, students and faculty of BFCCPS. My name is Kelly Park, and for my capstone project, I focused on eczema. Eczema is a skin disease that makes parts of the skin very irritated when in contact with certain triggers, such as animals or plants. The condition itself isn't life-threatening, but when it creates open wounds, these areas can get infected. Eczema is most known for the red, dry parts on the skin, and it is extremely itchy. There are different types of eczema, varying on intensity and length, but 30 million people have the type of eczema that lasts for the rest of their lives. I chose this project because many people in my family have this, such as my dad, my brother, and myself. I wanted others to know what this disease is like and how they can help. I also want to do a project that wouldn't involve me raising any fundraising. I want to get people's attention in another way because I saw how different some projects work out than others. Many different organizations help out with finding cures and helping others. I contacted the National Eczema Association for my project. At the beginning of my project, they sent me informational pamphlets and gave me ideas on how to reach out to my school community. My three main goals were to educate others about eczema. My first goal was to educate the younger students. To do this, I wrote a story about a girl with eczema and read it to the first and second grades. The teachers were very nice about letting me come in, and I was able to set up a time to meet with them. The kids were very well behaved, and they listened to me read. My second goal was to educate the older students. To do this, I made a small speech about eczema in my capstone and read it to the 5th through 8th lunches. Setting up the time was easy, and I was able to tell them about my project. My third and last goal was to make the students more aware about my project. I contacted the National Eczema Association and asked them to send anything I could pass out. They responded and gave me rubber bracelets and stickers with eczema awareness on them. I handed these out to the 7th and 8th grade homerooms in the morning. The only obstacle I faced was figuring out what to give. At first, I wanted to give out lotion that helped with dryness. I spent time looking for what to hand out and making sure it was small enough to be placed in each classroom. After I found something, I had to get it approved by the school nurses to make sure it was safe. They told me that I couldn't due to allergies, and with my deadline drawing closer, I had to contact the National Eczema Association to send supplies. They responded within 2 weeks, so I was able to get my project done on time. There were a couple positive outcomes in my capstone project. My first positive result of my project was that the school community was more educated about eczema, which is the whole purpose of my project. After I read to the 1st and 2nd grades and made my speech, I could sense that they knew more about eczema and the effects it has on the people who have it. They are also a bit curious as to what the effects of eczema were, and that encouraged them to ask questions. The other positive result of my project was that the National Eczema Association said they would write an article about my project, and it makes me feel like my goal will be spread out to more than just my school community. Through the whole capstone process, I learned something new. I learned that most people are very generous when giving you their time. All you have to do is ask. The teachers, National Eczema Association, and my parents were very understanding and helped me get my goals done. I'd like to thank my advisor, Mr. Callahan, and my advising group for helping me and encouraging me through the capstone process. My parents for helping me with mailing and supporting me, the school nurses for checking over my lotions, and the National Eczema Association for sending me supplies. Thank you for listening to my capstone project and have a nice day.
Thanks, Kelly. One of the side benefits of the capstone process is it at times forces students to step way outside of their comfort level. You just saw two people give speeches that were way outside of their comfort level. Nice job. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce Jillian Reynolds, and she works with Cancer Awareness.
Cancer is the leading cause of death, accounting for over 7.6 million deaths worldwide. And by 2030, there is an estimated number of 13.1 million deaths due to worldwide cancer. I was unaware of that fact until summer of 2012, when the father of an old friend of mine passed away due to cancer. This opened my mind and inspired me to join the fight against cancer for my capstone project. Hi, my name is Jillian Reynolds, and for my capstone project, I raised money to help prevent cancer. Since I already knew what I wanted to do for my capstone, my first step was to find an organization to work with. I knew it had to be fun, or else I would start to get really bored with my capstone and not have any motivation. I realized it had to be done in the span of a year so I could finish my capstone in time. And I knew it had to be local, so I wouldn't have to travel far. I then recalled an organization I participated in 5th grade called Relay for Life. Relay for Life is an organization that hosts a community fundraising walk. The way it works is there are teams. Each team has a goal and tries to raise enough money to fulfill that goal. The money people raise goes to cancer research, helping find a cure for cancer. It also goes to families who don't have enough money to pay for medical attention for a loved one with cancer. I remembered how much fun I had participating and that it didn't take too much time along with it being local. So I decided to work with Relay for Life for my capstone project. After I got the okay to work with Relay for Life, I quickly emailed the person running the Franklin Relay for Life, Jill Landerholm. She replied in 2 days, directing me to Christine Walsh, another person hosting the Relay for Life. I immediately emailed Ms. Walsh, asking her about Relay for Life and how to get involved. She emailed me back, answering all of my questions, and I quickly signed up to be part of Relay for Life. I needed to have goals for my capstone, or else I wouldn't know what to do. After thinking for a little while, I finally came up with my goals. The first goal was to raise awareness around my local community. My second goal was to raise at least $100. And lastly, my third goal was to save a life or help someone move one step closer to cancer survival. I currently do not know if I had or had not done that yet due to the fact that the leader of Relay for Life had not contacted me yet. I then started brainstorming on how I would raise money for my first goal. I considered Jean's Day, but that was quickly put down due to the fact that it wasn't allowed. I then went to my second option, which was hosting a popsicle sale. Along with that, I considered having a pink day where everybody wore pink to raise awareness for cancer. I talked about that idea with my advisor once, and he said it was a good idea. After talking with the panel, I got the green light, meaning I have approval from the school to start my action plan. I figured that since it was only April when this occurred, and that Relay for Life wasn't until June 14, 2013, I could just relax a bit. Unfortunately, time caught up with me. Before I knew it, it was already June. So, I quickly arranged for June 7th to have my popsicle sale, got it approved, and bought the popsicles. Finally, when the day came to sell my popsicles, it turned out that it was raining. That didn't stop me, though, from continuing with my sale. I sold them inside instead of outside, and it turned out that my popsicle sale was a big success. I sold them for $1 each and had the help of my friends to sell them with me. I raised $100, reaching my goal. I also had good team members for my Relay for Life team, which didn't turn out so well. Many people were busy on the day of Relay for Life. After many calls and emails, it turns out that other than my family members, only one person was going to do Relay for Life with me. The night before Relay for Life, I found out there was an announcement in the Pink Sheet for a Pink Day, where people would wear pink for one day to raise awareness. It turns out that my advisor, Mr. Callahan, had organized it for me, without telling me. So, the next day, I see people go to school wearing pink. It was a big surprise to me, but it was also a good thing because I earned an extra $15 from that, making the total amount of money $115, along with raising awareness for cancer. That night was the Relay for Life, and I had a lot of fun. I watched on the track for a couple of hours with my team members, and it was overall a thrilling experience. I got to see the impact Relay for Life had on everybody, and even got to see some performances put on for entertainment. If I learned anything from my capstone, it was to not procrastinate. I know that many have said before, but that is only because that's where people make lots of mistakes, including myself. Since I put off asking people to join my team, I didn't have as much team members as I could have if I started asking people earlier. I also could have had a different day for my popsicle sale, possibly selling more than I did. I'd like to thank Mr. Callahan, my advisor, for helping me and encouraging me throughout my entire Capstone journey, my advising group for giving me ideas when needed and helping me when needed, Nina Pencar for helping me sell my popsicles, Christine Walsh for hosting the Real Life for Life and helping me sign up, everybody who was on my team, because without them, I wouldn't have raised all the money I did. And lastly, I'd like to thank my parents for supporting me throughout the entire process and encouraging me when I felt like giving up. I will definitely be working with Real Life for Life again in the future. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.
Nice job, Jill. I'd like to now introduce Johnny Saldana, who worked with the Medical Bridges Foundation.
Hello, students, parents, and faculty of BFCCPS, as well as our special guest. My name is Johnny Saldana, and the organization that I worked with was the Medical Bridges Foundation. So without further ado, please let me present to you my capstone project. In the very beginning of the capstone process, I was very overwhelmed by the amount of work we had to accomplish. I found it especially difficult to try to pick an organization to work with. I went through many different ideas and institutions until I finally came to the one that I ended up choosing, the Medical Bridges Foundation. This organization donates new and used medical supplies to countries that need them. Some of the areas of the world that benefit from this charity are Middle Eastern countries and African countries, as well as many other third world countries. I picked this charity because medical supplies can be the difference between life and death, and I thought that by donating medical equipment, I could effectively save another human being's life. After I researched this foundation and followed all the necessary steps, I had large ambitions for what I was going to accomplish. Unfortunately, it wasn't until our action plan was to actually be carried through that I realized how ludicrous some of my goals were. It took a long time for me to actually push myself to accomplish anything. After much motivation and many weeks of planning, I had my first popsicle sale in late May, selling many popsicles during lunch to grades 1 through 8. My popsicle sale lasted 3 days, and by the end, I had accumulated over $75. I had a massive feeling of success after the sale, which turned out to be a bad thing. I entered a mindset that I could finish Capstone easily with just a few more popsicle sales, but I never actually planned when I would accomplish these sales. Before I knew it, it was September, and I was exactly where I was last May. During September, I tried to crack down on Capstone and managed to get another multi-day popsicle sale through. Unfortunately, I was still barely halfway to my previously set goal of $150. When I was first planning my capstone, I originally was going to street perform in Boston to raise money and awareness. Unfortunately, due to many problems that arose, I'd given up hope of ever accomplishing this goal. The main problem was finding a way to transport and power my electronic piano. As luck would have it, I found out in early October that various pianos were being set up throughout Boston. This was all orchestrated by an organization called Play Me I'm Yours, which publicly places decorated pianos throughout the world. This was a golden opportunity to raise awareness for medical bridges within my extended community. So with my brother Mason holding up a poster I created, I performed various piano songs and talked with people about my capstone. I played on a total of 2 different pianos that were set up in the Boston Commons. This ended up being a lot more fun than I expected, even though it was really cold and raining. I considered the street performing to be a success, which motivated me to continue working on my capstone. I managed to plan another popsicle sale for a couple of days on the last week of October. The sale ended up being successful, and I also disproved many claims that you couldn't sell popsicles in sub-35-degree weather. With my capstone about 80% completed, I just needed a few more components to completely finish it. One obstacle I faced was finding a way to educate my local community on my capstone. I overcame this by having a hot chocolate sale in late November and passing out flyers to students. During the hot chocolate sale I orchestrated, I believed I raised a lot of awareness through the flyers. I also raised more money through the 4-day sale. This concluded the fundraising and awareness sections of my capstone. The final thing I needed to do was to purchase the medical supplies, which I would then send to Medical Bridges. I ended up raising a lot more money than I originally anticipated, which allowed me to buy more supplies. I was able to purchase nearly $250 worth of medical equipment, and these life-saving materials are currently being shipped straight to the Medical Bridges Foundation. Now, I'd like to say thank you to a couple of people for helping me on the way. First, to my family, who helped me throughout the capstone process. Next, Mr. Callahan and my advisory group, who pushed me to accomplish more. Also, my friends who helped me during my fundraisers. And lastly, Mr. Perna and Mrs. Olnowski, who approved my fundraisers and gave me many good ideas. Lastly, I would like to give some advice to future capstoners. First, as previously stated, do not procrastinate. It really is bad. And also, try to set goals that are manageable and attainable. I thought that was my biggest problem. Thank you for your time, and good luck to the rest of 8th grade.
I wanted to just take a second to thank some other people that made this entire presentation possible. Last year, we started a new position called the Capstone Coordinator. Mrs. Honor started that for us last year. She was the one that was able to kind of get together the process, introduce it to our current 8th graders, and work with the advisors through last year's capstone process. She no longer works here. She has a position in another school, but I just wanted to make sure that we took an opportunity to thank her. I also wanted to thank Mr. Keeter and Mrs. Wolf, who are the capstone coordinators this year, who have worked with the 8th graders to complete their capstone project and their advisors, and are now working with our 7th graders as they start to plan their capstone projects for next year. I wanted to thank the parents, the grandparents, the relatives who came out today to support all of our 8th graders. Thank you for staying for the whole presentation, and thank you for supporting your students and understanding what your support means in order for them to be successful. So thank you all very much for that. I think we owe our parents a round. I also wanted to thank Mrs. Schwab, Madame Maloof, and some parents who came out yesterday during the snow day to help us set up, as well as bringing their students out to help us set up for the presentations that started so early this morning. So thank you all very much for coming out yesterday in the snow, and Mrs. Schwab, thank you for all of your help and support. You guys did an amazing job today. You should all be very proud. Take a deep breath. You are done. Congratulations. I would like to ask the 8th graders who presented today to stand one last time so we can give them a round of applause. And a very big thank you to Mr. Callahan, Mrs. L, Mr. Heater, Mr. Duke, and Mrs. Ward, who worked with you guys to help you through your capstone. Thank you very much, Dr. O'Malley, for coming back and joining us, and thank you so much, Representative Royford, for spending the morning with us. We really appreciate your time. I'm going to ask the 8th graders who presented today to stay so they can take pictures with their advisors and their parents. And we can go ahead and dismiss 6th grade from the back. Thank you, guys.